Hi, I'm Jake from Liebherr, Canada. I represent the account Liebherr GTA on Instagram and YouTube. Today I'm standing on a 756 dozer. We're looking at the engine. We're going to talk about emissions, what Liebherr has to offer and why we're ahead of the game. In the mid-2000s, the US government and Canadian government mandated that we had to make diesels burn cleaner out of the stuff coming out of the exhaust. Tier 1, Tier 2, they made it burn a little hotter. Not a lot changed on the engine. Tier 3 came, some of them had common rails, some didn't. Most of them had an EGR cooler and an EGR valve. EGR meaning is exhaust gas recirculation. Takes some of your percentage of your exhaust gases that was coming out of the exhaust, recycles it back through the engine. Goes through the EGR cooler to cool it down, and it burns off some of the unburnt fuel. Tier 4, most of them had to have EGR. They had to add DEF to the exhaust, which is an SCR system, and they had to add DPF, which is diesel particulate filter. On this engine here, there's no EGR, there's no DPF, there's only SCR. SCR is select catalyst reduction. That means you have to add DEF, which is on every Tier 4, to cut down the NOx. To cut down the NOx, they put urea into the exhaust. Urea is DEF, AdBlue. Essentially, it's 32.5% urea, and the rest is deionized water. They put it into a catalyst, like similar to a catalytic converter on a car. Not quite the same, but it does the same thing. And it takes the nitrous oxides down to a lower level. It's just a chemical reaction, and it comes out cleaner. It gets injected into the exhaust. There's no worry about stuff going back through the engine, like on an EGR or EGR cooler. There's no regeneration. Regeneration is what is used on DPF, what most competitors are using for Tier 4. It collects a lot of the soot because their engines aren't burning as clean, and then essentially it injects diesel into the exhaust to burn off the excess soot that's in this filter, and they also have to use SCR after that to bring down the nitrous NOx, and they also have to have EGR. So they're also recirculating some of those exhaust gases. There's 3 systems on a lot of the competitors, and if you've ever had a machine, most people know it is sometimes a pain and a lot of downtime. Sometimes if you haven't done a regen, you have to actually park your machine and do a forced regen for a couple hours while it burns that filter off. The machines will not run if it is not emissions compliant. They are told to shut down. Liebherr came out with a Tier 4 without all that stuff on it because they have to meet Stage 5 in Europe, which is essentially the same as what Tier 5 would be. They then have to add a DPF. So they've designed an engine to meet an emissions that doesn't exist yet in North America. We are at a benefit because there is no EGR, there's no EGR coolers, there's no DPF, no regeneration, no problems or worries about stuff going through the engine like antifreeze, no regen benefit of that because it does not have to have hotter exhaust. When they regen, it makes the exhaust really hot. Causes, sometimes I've heard fires, I've heard really hot engine compartments. We don't have those problems. Another benefit Liebherr has, because we have such a clean burning engine, is the oil change intervals are much higher. On some of our models it is 2,000 hours. As you can see, our engine is very simple. This is a 6-cylinder engine. Each cylinder head has its own cylinder head. Comes out of a manifold into a turbo, goes up the turbo pipe into the exhaust, and goes back out, and then goes into the atmosphere with low NOx, low carbon, etc. You can also see we come standard with a top pre-filter for air cleaner. It comes in through our air filter and comes into the turbo that way. Also, if you look down really deep on our dozers, you can see this engine was made for construction equipment. The oil pan is about 16 to 18 inches deep, so this machine can go on some major side hills. The engine is purpose-built. It's not meant to go in trucks. It's not meant to go in a whole bunch of other stuff. It's meant for construction equipment. Buy what's made for the industry. If you look at the rads, if you look very wide fin rads, this machine has reverse fan. It's going to stay cooler, cleaner, save you on fuel. Horsepower and torque on this machine, it reaches max torque and max horsepower. Max torque around 1000 RPM, holds solid torque line all the way through 1800 RPM. Horsepower is very similar, reaches max horsepower at around 1200 RPM, and it's a flat curve. So if you're running the machine at 1200 or max 1800, it's going to have the same horsepower and torque. So if it bogs down, you're not losing torque when you slow down, making this dozer perform a little better. There's some more information about Tier 4, hopefully made into a little bit simpler English. Benefits are it's a simpler system, it only has SCR, which means it only has DEF going through. No worries about regen, EGR coolers going and putting antifreeze through the machine. Please give us a call if you have any questions, or message me on my Instagram or YouTube. Thank you. Bye.